If you're one of the many people who has a whole drawer full of finished cross stitches, but have been too intimidated by the laced back technique that a lot of people consider ideal for framing and display to tackle it yourself, this is your lucky day, because this week I'm going to demystify that process for you. I'm Ford, and this is Caterpillar Cross Stitch. Let's go. The materials that I'm going to be using this week are a frame in which to display my finished cross stitch. My finished cross stitch, obviously. A piece of white foam core board onto which to mount the piece. A safe cutting surface to cut the foam core board on, because I don't want to cut up my great-grandmother's desk any more than it already has been. Something sharp with which to cut the foam core. Straight edge for measuring purposes. Some framer's tape or otherwise archival and acid-free tape. My light-up tracing pad that I talked about a few weeks ago. Some sewing thread or embroidery floss. And of course a needle. And if you appreciate my short intros and just jumping right in, I would appreciate it if you would subscribe to the channel, like this video, and leave me a comment when we're done. If you're already a subscriber and you're on mobile, hit that hype button down there. I don't know if it works, but I want to give it a try. Now, choosing the right frame for your project is, of course, an art in unto itself. But once you've chosen the correct frame and made sure that your project will fit in it okay, then you need to figure out the actual size of that frame. A frame is going to have a nominal size, that is the size with which it is labeled. For instance, an 8x10 frame or a 5x7 frame. Those are pretty common frame sizes. But the actual size of the frame is going to be different from the nominal size of the frame. So if we take a look at this one was labeled as a 7x9 frame, which is kind of an odd size you don't see very often. But if we take a look at it and measure it out, we actually get about 7 1/8 inch by 9 1/8 inch. But when we look at the opening of the frame, how much it actually displays of our project, we get about 8 5/8 by 6 5/8. So in general, a frame's opening size, that is how much it's actually going to display through the frame, is going to be about 1/2 inch or about 12 millimeters smaller than its nominal size. But that's just kind of a rule of thumb. So for this frame, I'm going to want to cut a piece of the mat board that is between those two dimensions in size. Now, I don't want to make the mistake of cutting it to exactly these dimensions here, because my mat board is going to have the fabric wrapped around the edge of it a little bit, and that's going to add some height and width to that mat board. So I need to give myself a little bit of tolerance. So I'm going to give myself about a touch over 1/4 of an inch, or a touch over about 6 millimeters of extra space on my piece of mat board, so that it won't have to jam in there once it's got the fabric wrapped around it. So I'm going to aim for like 6 7/8 inches by 8 7/8 inches. So that'll give me a pretty decent margin there. Now, I like to buy my mat board in large sheets and then cut it down to size, because that makes it a lot cheaper for me. And we all know that I am frugal. So what I'm going to do now is measure out and cut the bit that I need. And as luck would have it, this piece of mat board that I cut out of this one last time is exactly the width that I need here. And now that I think about it, I think I actually got 2 of these frames, and I already put something in the other one. And that explains why this is already the right width. So now what I need to do is mark that width down here as well, and cut this down to size. And then do the same for the height. And just to be safe, I'll double check that against my frame. Okay, good. That is giving me that little bit of extra margin that I want, but it's big enough that it doesn't just fall through the frame. So now what I want to do is position my project on that mat board, and that's where my light table comes in handy. If you don't have one, you can use a laptop that's open to a blank page, or even a window. Or if you're desperate, you can measure it. Part of the reason I like to use the light table is that sometimes the mathematical center of the project is not the visual center of the project. If it's not perfectly symmetrical or box-shaped, then you're going to have some kind of visual weight differences. So that's why I like to use the light table, because then I can kind of center it based on vibes, and it won't feel off balance once it's in the frame. I can also take a look at the rows of holes that are lit up to make sure that I've got it straight. And I think I like where that is right now, so I'm going to just slide that off the edge of the desk, making sure not to slide the mat board and the project relative to one another. Get my light table out of the way, and put my project and its mat board face down. Now, I've got those all lined up how I want them. And in order to get them to stay there, you have a couple of choices. You can pull this up and put some pins in through the side to hold it in place temporarily. Or you can do what I'm going to do today and just temporarily put a piece of tape there. I like to use this framer's tape because it doesn't stretch, it doesn't leave any adhesive, and it's archival and acid-free. Now I'm going to extend the crease down to the end, just kind of pressing it with my fingers there, so that it will fold neatly when I fold those other corners over. Now I want to make sure it didn't slip while I was turning it over from the light table, so I'm just going to turn it back over to the face again to double check that I still feel like it's centered and I still feel like it's straight. And I'm pretty happy with that. So now I'm going to start with my process of lacing it into that mat board. Now I want to be able to put some tension on this so it stays nice and tight, and if I do that with only one strand of floss, it often breaks. So I'm actually going to use 2 strands of floss for this. And I want a nice long piece because I don't want to have to be splicing those together partway through. When pulling 2 strands from a bundle of embroidery floss, it's way more effective if you pull out one at a time. So now that I've got my thread already and my needle threaded, I'm going to need to move these pieces of tape here so that I can get to these areas in order to lace them up. So what I'm going to want to do is just tie a knot in the end of my floss. And I'm going to just start lacing. I want to put my stitches about 1/4 of an inch, or a little over 1/2 centimeter from the edge. Now it doesn't matter whether you go under the fabric and up with your needle or down through the fabric with your needle, as long as you're consistent. You don't want the pull of the thread to be different from one area to the next. So I will just start doing those lacings, and if you want to, you can measure those out to decide where to put them, but since this is going to be the back and inside the frame and therefore never visible, I'm just going to measure that with my heart. And you want to try to keep some tension in the thread as you're sewing so that you don't have to try to tighten it all up at the end. If you have to try to tighten it all up at the end, you're going to have uneven tension. It will be tighter at the areas where you pulled from versus the areas farther up the thread. So try to maintain some tension as you do those stitches. And you want each of those strands to be close enough together that you get an even tension across the piece, but they don't need to be super close. And now that I've gotten to where my tape is in the way, I'm just going to move it a little bit further down the line. So it'll keep everything square for me until I don't need it anymore. This is one of the advantages of using the pin instead of the tape, is that you don't have to move them. You can leave them there till you're done. And of course I failed in my mission to make my thread long enough, so I am going to have to go ahead and splice another length on here. While I'm doing that would be an excellent time for you to click the link down there in the description or in the first pinned comment and sign up for the Caterpillar Cross Stitch Stitch Club email newsletter. You'll get all the news about our upcoming projects and stitch-alongs, socials, retreats, that kind of stuff. Plus, you'll get 10 free PDF cross-stitch patterns worth £60 as soon as you sign up. So make sure you check that out. Okay, now that I've laced it all the way to the end here, I want to go back and try to tighten these down just a little bit more. So I'm just going to use the same technique I would use to tighten up a corset, which is to go every third string, pull out the slack that I can, move that slack on down to the end. And I'm realizing that I may have just told you a lot more about my life and experience than I intended to. But what are you going to do? Okay. That's better. So now I just need to maintain some tension on this and tie it off. And to be totally honest, this is the part of hand sewing that I am the worst at. So your method for tying off will probably be superior to mine. Okay, so now I want to do the lacing the other direction. So I'll just use the same technique. Now I want to make sure that this lays nice and flat as I'm starting, because I don't want to introduce any crooked angles. And then I will just lace my way across this gap just like I did the other one. Okay, there we go. So I've got the back all laced up going both directions here, and I'm pretty happy with how tidy and tight those corners are. And I have nice crisp edges there. Honestly, I'd be pretty happy to hang it just like this. But I have that gorgeous frame. So that drops down in there. Because I was smart enough to leave myself a little bit of extra space, I don't have to cram it into the frame. And we are good to go. Now, there are any number of ways that you can hold it in the frame. I'm just going to use these pieces of tape for right now, but I do actually have a framing point gun. So once I'm totally satisfied that that's the frame it's living in forever, I will use that to put it in there a little bit more permanently. So it is time consuming and it is laborious and it takes some caution and some care, but the lace back method of preparing cross stitches for framing is the most durable and most archival and non-destructive. You don't have to cut any parts of it off. So those are reasons that it's highly desirable. If you have a question you'd like to see me answer, leave it in the comments. I'll see if I can get around to it for you. But that is all I have for you this week. I want to thank you so much for watching. For Caterpillar Cross Stitch, my name is Ford, and I'll see you next week.